Hello, hoes. I'm here eating chicken, cabbage, and rice like a bad bitch. And I'm here for my weekly updates. And I mean, I guess this cannot be considered a mukbang, because it's not like some ginormous amount of food. And I'm talking throughout. Usually, when people mukbang, they're just there eating. I don't know. Those are some of the ones I've seen. I don't watch mukbang videos. I hate mouth sounds. And that whole, like, why am I hearing the inside of your throat? No, child, but I'm here to provide that for y'all today. And my weekly update on my healing journey. So last week my therapy session actually got canceled. So I had to therapize myself all weekend. And it's because I live in Canada and we got like a shit ton of snow. Everything shut down. They called snow days. Everyone was in mayhem. So my therapist's kids' school also got shut down, and she's like, okay, I have kids like running around here, so I can't do, the session this week. And I was like, fuck, I really need this session because I felt like I was crashing out last week, y'all. I felt like I was crashing out. And it was such an emotionally exhausting, painful week at one point. And then I brought myself out of it, and I'm actually really proud of myself. And, I'm applying the tools that I'm learning so early on. It's only been like, I mean, I've had 4 sessions, but like 3 official, sessions with this type of like therapeutic modality her and I are doing. It's called healing immersion or whatever. So I've only had 3 of those sessions, and I already feel like it's really changing my system of thinking. So shout out to my therapist, Chanel. Because I feel like the little that she has taught me and perspectives that she's given me, different. Okay, this isn't going as quickly as I thought it would. I don't know about y'all, but I'm glad I cleaned this bone, okay? I took off all the meat so I can mix it in with my rice, but from the chicken. It's not the point. It's not the point. Stick to the point. The point is, we went through it. We're slowly coming out of it this weekend. And we did it on our own, which gives me hope that I can do it again and again and again and again. Okay? So where we last left off in the saga, I told that idiot man, he can keep his fucking Valentine's Day to his fucking self. Okay? I told him save it. I'm taking a step back from this entire thing. It's giving situationship. I told you that's not what I want. I feel confused. You don't know what you want. We're just not weird. You're stringing me along with false promises that you have no plan on even how you're gonna keep them. And let's really focus on our friendship because him and I have always been pretty good friends, even though we've had a friends with benefits kind of situation for like a year. And we've come out of that sexual space and just been friends and like not had sex for months and still talked and checked in and communicated. So I know we can do it, again and still like be cordial with one another. So, he was like, I'm hurt, it's hurting, but at the end of the day, still had the same narratives that he's not ready for no damn commitment, doesn't know what the hell he even wants from a commitment, doesn't know how he would approach one, has struggles opening up to people, communicating, all these different things. So I said, why are you barking up my fucking tree? So I left that conversation last week after saying no to the Valentine's Day on the Tuesday, feeling okay-ish, for like a day. Okay. Wednesday, I was like, okay, I think I made the right decision. I feel a little sad and disappointed, but you know what? It's fine. Focus on yourself, focus on your healing. Then Thursday came along, and I was very aware that Valentine's Day was the next day. I just started feeling sad all over again. When, because the commercialism of Valentine's Day as a single person makes you feel like you should fucking kill yourself because you're a fucking leper. And usually I don't play into those tropes. Most Valentine's Days that I've been single, which I've been single for the last 6 Valentine's Days, I've been single for 6 years, y'all. That part of it doesn't rock me as much, so I was very surprised that I was feeling all like down in the dumps. But I realized it's because I'm like, I I had hope that this was the first like Valentine's Day in a very long time that like I'd have a Valentine, and like we'd be doing things and I was getting excited about that. And so I think Thursday it really settled in that I'm like, oh, like this, yeah, it's another year. No Valentine, and you were getting so excited to have one. And it was making me very depressed. And then I was starting to cycle into thoughts of, oh my gosh, what if he like really just doesn't care and then decides to do Valentine's Day, with that Greek hoe and like take her to the play. And I got very fixated on that. I began to convince myself that they were going to spend Valentine's Day together. I was convinced. I was like, oh, that's what he's going to do. Oh, yeah. He's saying he's hurting. Liar. And that's because the guy before him, mm, when I went through this exact same scenario, was like, I give me the space and time to think. We decided to not we. I was like, okay, I will release myself from the situation so you can think. We had kind of an agreement that like it's not you're going off and doing absolutely nothing. Like you're actually we're taking physical space from one another to think so we can come back and have a discussion. In that physical space, he went and was fucking the bitch he told me not to worry about. Inevitably, she got pregnant a month later. So I was digging back into my own wounds, and I'm like, yeah, he says he's taking space and doing the work to think or whatever, or I told him to go take space and do the work to think, but in reality he's just going to go back to these bitches because they're available and it's convenient. So by the time Friday came, oh child, I went into psycho mode. I was like incessantly stalking both of their pages for any information that they might like be with one another, because she is like me, she posts a little bit in real time. So I'm like, if they're together, I'll know. Like I'll be able to find the signs and whatever she posts. But there was also a part of me, because he knew on Friday that I'd be free after a certain time and I would be actually in his area getting my hair done. There was also a part of me that I'm like, maybe all of this, like, he'll feel compelled to really like just pull out some one last stop action to be like, please, baby, please, that Dwayne and Whitley from A Different World, baby, please. And like it'll convince me and we'll actually end up spending Valentine's Day together, and maybe like all of this will have him come to a realization. So I went and did my hair, and I was somewhere between maybe he'll actually like call and like really put the pressure on and show me some plan, and I'll say, okay, fine, fuck it, let's do Valentine's Day. Because all of this drama compelled him to really realize how he feels about me. And then the next thought would be lies. He's doing that woman. So I finished my hair, and this is how the sad, unhealed part of me begins to function. I finished my hair. Why was I wandering around that city for a whole hour? Just in case he calls. Just in case he knows I'm done at 5. We'll give him a few minutes. 5:15. Okay. Maybe he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want to appear too pressed. 5:30. 5:45. 6 o'clock. Like by 6 o'clock, I'm sitting in the parking lot of some store, and I'm like, "Bitch, go home." He's not calling. And even if he really wanted to pull out a big stop shop, he obviously should have done it before 5 o'clock. But I was trying to give a little hope. When I didn't get that call and I started making my way back home, that's when I really started spiraling. I was like, wow. He says he's hurting. He says he doesn't want to spend this day with anyone else. Oh, I forgot to mention, he actually wished me a happy Valentine's Day in the morning. That's really what set me off. And then proceeded to say, actually, let me see if I can find the message. And that's why I had a little hope. I was like, this hope isn't just coming from Delulu land. So he's like, happy Valentine's Day, Renee. I was like, happy Valentine's Day to you too. He's like, even though I'm heartbroken and damning capitalism, you make repair and joy believable, achievable. And each time I stare in your eyes, I remember the look of love. I can't thank you enough for showing up in my life as you have. I just want you to know you mean a lot to me. There's no one else I would rather be spending today with. And then he was like, dot, dot, dot. And I was like, well, you make me believe that people can be open and, to the real me and genuine, hold space, and that joy and care is possible. And I can and will never forget that. You mean a lot to me too. You've left an indelible mark on my life, and I just left it there. That was like crack of dawn, like 8 a.m. He sent me, we exchanged these messages. And then I was like, whatever, it's fine, I'll be fine. And then by the time noon came, I'm like, I'm not fine. And then, I was rereading those messages and I'm like, maybe he'll like, he said when he looks at me, it's the look of love. Maybe he wouldn't want to spend this day with anyone else. Maybe he'll come up with something. And I'm like, no, he's probably dicking down Miss Greek as we speak. So, anyways, it's 6 o'clock. I'm driving my ass home looking like an idiot. And I got home and yeah, my thoughts were just, it was not like, when I mean every 5 minutes I was going on this woman's page looking for absolutely nothing. And so at some point I was like, Bo, put your phone somewhere else. And I decided to like, create some art just to try and distract myself. I got a little high, smoked a little weed, and I was like, maybe just take your ass to bed. Took my ass to bed. Woke up the next day and I was like, okay, you got shit to do. You need to distract your mind. You have PhD work. You've got your yoga class. You've got the things. So I woke up in the morning still feeling depressed, still thinking, did they spend Valentine's Day together? But I was telling myself, don't you creep that phone. Just go on about your day. So I went to my yoga class. I was trying to center myself. After yoga, I was feeling okay. By the time I came home and I started eating my lunch and, doing the little things I had to do, those thoughts were coming again. Next thing you know, I'm stalking the girl's page. There's like little to no posts, yes, like from Valentine's Day. I think it was just one of her in like a jacket, and I was like, that doesn't tell me anything. That doesn't tell me anything. And then it was silence from him, silence from her, and I was like, well, that means they are for sure together because this girl posts all the time, seemingly from what I can see. So I was like, oh, why is she silent? Only time, and he posts fairly frequently, sometimes he'll go a little dry, and most of the time he's posting something. And I knew he had shows this weekend, so I was like, he would be posting to promote those shows. We got a snowstorm on Saturday, so I was like, oh, maybe they're held up together in the snowstorm, just cuddling all day. No wonder they're not posting. There's nothing to post. They're busy having sex. Like, and so I kept telling myself, go and do your fucking work. So I did my work. I actually bought myself tickets to the play that he was supposed to take me to the next day because it's actually a play I wanted to see for Saturday night. And I was like, I will drive through the storm to the play because I just need to keep myself busy. And that's exactly what I did in between stalking these bitches' pages and, trying to keep myself fucking sane. And I realized, um, you know, in all of this, actually, let's go to the next day. Because that's really where the realizations happen. Let me take a bite. I'm still so hungry. You know what? I shouldn't have started recording this damn thing. I should wait till I was done eating. I thought I could eat and talk. I'm not that girl. I'm not that girl. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. I gotta get you one of these. I gotta get you one of these and chicken salad. Mm. Okay. So, crashing out, right? So I told myself on Saturday night, I'm like, you are only allowed to stalk this woman one more day. Okay? Sunday, because that's the day of the play. Duh. I was like, you can stalk her all of Sunday if you want, but come Monday, this needs to end. This needs to end. You're literally making yourself sick. Like, I would go to the page and I'm like, my heart is palpitating because I'm like, oh god, okay. I'm blocked. I'm about to see something. And like, there's nothing there. And by the time Sunday came, I had fully woken up from 2 days of like stalking this woman every like 10 minutes. That I'm like, this is unhealthy behavior, and also this is not me. I don't do this shit. I really don't do this shit. And I'm like, why am I doing it? I have to sit with myself for a second, do some meditations. Like, I'm like, why am I doing this, and why do I feel compelled to look for this information when you let this man go? You need to be focusing on your shit. Why are you over here meddling in this? Why do you keep doing this when you know what you need to do and you're very conscious of what you're doing? And when I really sat and thought about it on Sunday, which was also informed by another trip in like art making and a very beautifully like reflective day. Sunday was a day where I literally went on a trip. I took some psilocybins, like some mushrooms, and I was creating my art. and like all the emotions were coming to me. At one point, I was crying over my painting, and then I'm giggling, and blah blah blah. And of course, all these thoughts are like going through my mind. And really, by the end of that trip, what I realized was that I'm like, I am going out of my way to try and find reasons to be hurt by this man. And I realized I'm like, if I'm able to attach this to like an exact action or something, or this feeling of like betrayal, coming from him, then I feel like I can shift from sadness to anger. For me, healing through anger is easier to do because I'm able to shift the blame somewhere, and I'm like, see, you're exactly what I thought you were gonna be. You're doing exactly what I thought you were gonna do. Bum behavior. And I can like position or pedestal myself as like in that healing, and being like, this is why I don't need this, and this is why I should no longer care, because this person's a liar, a cheater, a scummy, a bummy, all those different things. And so I wanted to put him within that narrative because I was tired of feeling sad. Like I was tired of the healing process, I think, and how messy and like all the thoughts and emotions that it invites. This is a new type of healing process because every relationship I've been in, I've had to heal through anger because someone has in fact done something to me. I've never had a moment where I had to heal properly through a situation where I chose to walk away, like where I engaged in the agency. And so the source of like my sadness is from my own action and decision, not because I'm like out here self sabotaging or whatever, but I needed to realize I had to make an uncomfortable and hard decision that I'm feeling sad about. I don't regret it, right? I still think it was the right decision, but I'm feeling sad about it. And having to like sit with that, I was it felt almost impossible to reconcile. Like I'm like, no, I need it has to be because someone did something to me. Like not because I'm choosing to affirm my own boundaries and affirm my own, wants and needs and be okay with that. Like and be okay with releasing somebody. I've never really had to heal in that way because of all of my, attachment tendencies and the certain types of relationship dynamics created with particularly narcissistic people who, prey on anxious people. They were always lying and cheating. So I'm like, oh wow, I did this, I chose to walk away. I feel sad about that. And it's a complicated sadness because the sadness I want to resolve by being like, no, maybe I should go back to you, but I know I shouldn't. And that was becoming just very odd for me to process because I've never had to before. And so instead of just sitting and taking the time to process it and actually affirming, you may feel sad, but the sadness is temporary because at the end of the day, this is like you did something that was the most radical form of self love. You maintained your boundaries. You decided to remove yourself from a situation that was making you uncomfortable, that was making you not yourself, right? Um, yeah, that was like it was a weird realization to come to that I'm like, oh, I'm like actually actively going outside out of my way to find reasons to be mad at this man rather than just processing my sadness, processing my disappointment from the situation and processing the fact that like I feel a loss of something because I let something go. And in that shift, I also had to realize to have compassion for him because he didn't actually do anything to me wrong. Like he didn't go out of his way to hurt me, lie to me, anything like that. He's just on his own self-help journey, right? And that allowed me to also look at the weekend in retrospect because in all of this, like stalking the woman and trying to distract myself, I was going through waves of being like, I should block him. I should block him from my stories. He shouldn't be able to perceive me. Like, blah, blah, blah. That'll really make him miss me. Or even if it doesn't make him miss me, he doesn't need to be seeing my face. It was different ways to try and engage in like revenge or punishment. And I think I was also trying to find evidence to substantiate that, right? Like to completely push this person out of my life in a way or block them from having access to me because that's the only way I've ever known how to heal. Right. But I needed to realize that I needed to heal that way for particular people who were going out of their way to harm me. Therefore, no, you don't get access to me. Therefore, no, you cannot be around me. Therefore, no, we should not be speaking. Therefore, no, I don't want to be your friend. You blocked. Right. Where he didn't do any of these things. So he doesn't deserve that type of like slow ghosting, behavior. And if I just feel like I cannot interact with him at this moment because it makes me feel sad or, it dresses up that disappointment, then just say that, just say that rather than engaging in different passive aggressive behavior that makes it seem like he did something horribly wrong that he didn't in fact do. He just couldn't meet your need. He couldn't meet your want, right? At least, not right now. And so that was a big realization that the second that like came to my mind and I just decided to eat it and digest it, y'all, all of the cloudiness of the weekend just disappeared. Like all of the sadness, all of the brain noise, just lift. I felt a literal weight just like come off of me. And while I still here and there, just because I'm a nosy bitch, have felt the compulsion, it's Tuesday again. So it's only been a couple of days. I've like there's little bits and pieces of me that I'm like, what is that Greek girl up to? Oh, it's not with the same, orientation, and I don't feel the compulsion to check every like 10 minutes, and I don't feel the compulsion to check if he's looking at my stories or not, or should I block him or not, or even like see if he's messaging me or not, or whatever. All of that thought, like of it being like, go check, go check, go check. Oh, it's quiet. It's much more quiet. I won't say it's completely quiet, but it's much more quiet, which lets me know that it's eventually going to be silent. Um, yeah, and like take on that immersion into my own healing. And so this is what the second I realized this, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm like, as Sunday's coming to an end, I think I like came down from my little trip almost at like midnight, and I'm like, wow, I've had so many downloads, so many realizations. This is helpful to me. Him and I, beyond that Valentine's Day message, didn't speak, the rest of the weekend. Uh, and that was also fucking with me because I'm used to talking to him every day now, days. Um, so I had to tell myself that's okay. Like it's fine. And actually, I also need this space for myself. Like I asked for this. I'm the one who asked for it. I'm like, why are you getting sad about it? So I had these downloads, right? And then I got a call from this man that y'all, I was obsessed with this man. Over this last 6 years I've been single, me and this man, before I met the one I'm talking about now, and even before I met the last one before the one I'm talking about now, he was, he consumed 4 years of my life, of us being in a situationship. Eventually, in those 4 years, got married, had a whole wife. The first year of it, he had he's been in a relationship with this woman for like 7, 8 years. I didn't know. So I'm there falling for him as we were engaging in something casual. And then I find out, oh, you've had a girlfriend this whole time. Try to remove myself from it. Then it was like 2 full years of him being like, no, I'm going to leave her. I want you. No, never mind. I'm not leaving her. No, I'm leaving her. No, I'm not leaving her. No, I'm leaving her. Putting me in all of this nonsense. Um, Eventually I was like, fuck that. Like oh my gosh, there's so much that in itself is a whole other story. And then we went through this period of like, unfortunately, I was the other woman for a very long time, while also being like, we can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. La, 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 la. This was going on up until last year. I'm not. I'll admit it that them two did in fact get married, and like, mind you, him and I were not frequently seeing each other these last like three, ish years, but every like 4 months or something like that, like he stalks me. I had to block my number. I had to remove my buzzer from my condo. Like he does not leave me alone. He goes out of his way to wear me down, and that's how those situations would happen after the first like 2 years. So now I've gotten much stronger in resisting his persistence. um but he was beginning to call me from blocked numbers, and he's been doing this forever. He's always calling me from blocked numbers or sending me weird fucking emails or trying to add me on Instagram, and I just ignore, right? And then he'll go quiet for a month or two and then come back and like blow up my shit. So he was quiet all winter, or not all winter, a lot of fall, and then started ramping up in the winter, then chilled in January, and then started ramping up like last week. And I was like, I'm so used to this, like this is nothing to me. So on Sunday, as I'm coming down from my trip, I see an unknown number, like a no caller ID, calling me, and I'm like, oh, it's this idiot. But then for some reason, I was like, pick up the phone, and I did. Of course, he was shocked. He was like, what? You never answer my calls? Oh my god! And I was like, why are you calling me? What the fuck do you want? Like, and how's your wife? Fuck off! Like, um. But interestingly, we had this weird, and again, I was still kind of high on mushrooms. He was trying to get all like sexual with me, and I was like, cut the bullshit. what do you want? And he was just like, you said at some point maybe we'll be able to be friends, so this is me trying to check in to see if we can be friends. So I was like, if you want to be friends, then let's be friends. Talk. Like, what's going on in your life? Anything you need help with, things like that. And he, for the first time ever, because he's a man who does not talk about emotions, is very manipulative. He's like a classic narcissist. Just started getting super vulnerable. Was he giving me all that information? Probably for the purpose of trying to like pull on my heartstrings. Did that work? No. But it was interesting because I engaged in that conversation. We spoke for like 2 hours, and then I was like, "Okay, bye." Like, and he was like, "Wait, can I come over?" I'm like, "No, go home to your wife." Like, back on the block list. Well, he was never off the block list. I don't know what number he called me from. Um, but I had to sit there and I'm like, why did I engage in this conversation? Especially after this mushroom trip. And I realized I was like, oh my gosh, being able to realize like you can heal from walking away from something, because he's another person I walked away from after this man dragged me through the mud for years. Okay, I don't even know if I can call it walking away. At that point, I was like, I was like tossed in the trash for a moment, and I'm like, maybe I'll just stay here. um, I realized I'm like, I think I can begin to be okay with people who have hurt me in the past. It's not like I'm forgetting. I'm forgiving without the apology. And I'm saying, okay, you're still like, you still have the tendency to be a beautiful person. You still have your own pain. Cause I felt like he was like really atoning and like just telling me all these things that are going wrong in his life, including his marriage. And I'm like, you're going through it right now. And you can hold space for hurt people who hurt people, even if, I was one of those people they hurt. Um, and you can appreciate their story with compassion without having to feel like you need to involve yourself in it or to take ownership over it or to fix it or to even have an emotional reaction, because I wasn't having one. And it's just realizing that like true healing is an indifference, like to a certain degree. True healing is still being able to give someone compassion and love if they need it, and space if they need it. He clearly needed it. He babbled for 2 hours, and I didn't really contribute too much to the conversation outside of being like, I hope you're okay, and maybe some little advice here and there. And you can still be a friend or an acquaintance to people who have done you harm, who you had deep feelings with, who you may have been in love with, who you've had sex with. Because I used to have a rule that I'm like, if you and I have mingled in any type of way, romantically or sexually, there's no friendship. I can't shift my brain there. Because again, I always feel so hurt that I'm like, how am I supposed to get to the space of friendship now after like all of this? Um, and in reality, with this man, I mean, him and I are not friends, but I'm like, I can still hold space and appreciate beauty in people and their story, even if they've hurt me. And that's because I am choosing to elevate myself from this situation. I am choosing to let go of certain, hurts and pains, whether they've caused it to me or whether, I've perceived situations and harmed myself, and I am choosing in this era of keeping my heart open. Remember the first video I made about my therapy session, and she's talking about expanding your capacity, the capacity of your heart. I'm realizing the capacity of my heart is expanded now, where I'm just like I can hold a little bit of space for people that I told myself I would never hold space for again, without attaching myself to their narrative or to their story, or without it rocking me. And I think one, that's a testament to some of the growth that I've been experiencing via therapy, but it's also a testament to the realizations that that I had over the weekend, which is again, it's actually not about forgiving the person, whether it's, the person I was just engaging in a situationship with. It's not about forgiving him because he doesn't know what he wants, and he, was stringing me along in that, even though he knew I told him, please don't string me along. Like, um, it's not about forgiving him for his own nonsense. It's not about forgiving the man, before him, um, for lying to my face and going and getting another girl pregnant. It's not even forgiving the man of the last however many years for the stalking and the lying and the manipulation and the I mean, you're cheating on your wife, so I guess you're not cheating on me. I don't know. All of it. It's not about forgiving them for that. It's actually about forgiving myself. And the more I'm able to actually forgive myself, in these scenarios, I'm realizing that's allowing my heart to expand, right? So in this, drawing it back to this particular man, I've forgiven myself for a few things. One, for engaging with him in the first place, knowing all the signs were there and all the words he was telling me all the way back in December still indicated the man didn't know what he wanted from a commitment and, blah, 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 blah. So I'm forgiving myself for actually not honoring my own boundaries and the ways that I like to engage in dating and courting people, because that's always remained the same. It hasn't changed. I'm there making compromises for based off of people's potentials, not based off of what's in front of me. That's a hurt I'm causing myself. I'm forgiving myself for that. I'm forgiving myself for not really communicating what I really needed along the way of these last couple of months. I'm forgiving myself for the moments that I crashed out, for the moments I got my little serpent tail, Scorpio tail out, for the moments I showed, the ugly sides of me, right? And I'm also forgiving myself um for sitting too deeply in like a disappointment, you know? And I think when I realize, okay, I can begin to forgive myself and then honor the decisions that I've made, it just made me feel so much lighter. It made me feel so much lighter. Just after hanging out with that other man, um, I go to bed, right? Tell me how first thing Monday, which is yesterday, it was a holiday here in Canada, something called Family Day. So I was, kind of sleeping in a little bit. I get a call from the guy, like the guy, like the man that I've been making all these videos about. And I was like, oh my god, okay. We haven't spoken in a whole week, like physically on the phone. It's just been little texts here and there. And I haven't spoken to him since Friday. And I was like, oh my god, should I pick up? I shouldn't pick up. And ultimately I decided to. And that in itself was its own interesting conversation. We spoke for about 2 hours, and I mean, nothing at the core of it has changed. He's like, I spent the entire weekend wallowing, and I was like, see, here I'm there checking their pages, and he's not doing anything but sitting in his apartment in the middle of the snowstorm. He also went on a little mushroom trip, and he's like, yeah, Friday I was hoping that maybe you would have a change of heart. He's like, I was sitting there all night hoping that maybe you just surprise me and show up in my apartment. And I was like, that's hilarious. I would spend all Friday evening hoping that you would pull out some huge romantic gesture that would like compel me to come. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. And it's so funny. We spent Friday evening torturing ourselves, hoping that one of each other would chase one another. And in reality, we're like running in opposite directions. And he's like, he literally said, he's like, I feel like I want to cry because this is so fucking stupid. I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, yeah, Saturday with the snowstorm. He's like, I was literally on a mushroom trip the entire day. And I was like, no wonder you weren't posting. I'm here spiraling, thinking you're having sex all day. Apparently you've been on shrooms. And then yesterday, or Sunday, sorry, he had a show. So he's like, I spent most of the day like rehearsing for that show and blah blah blah. And and there again, I'm like, they're at the plate together. No one's posting anything, going insane. And again, none of that was ever my business. Whether or not he was practicing or shroom tripping or dicking down some random person. That none of it is my business. My business is my business. My business is this healing journey. My business now is really focusing on how do I continue to create more moments where I am honoring my boundaries, where I am honoring my wants and needs, where I am articulating myself and using my voice, where I am continuing to heal in action and in real time and remain present and mindful and calm. So after that discussion, of course, he was like, oh, like, I miss you, and like, I just wish this was different, and da 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 da. But he was going on and on about how he still feels hope that at some point where we can like get back to one another and romantically, and all he wants to do is hold me and blah blah blah. And we hopped around a bunch of other topics as well too, just having like casual conversation as we usually do. um and he was like insisting, he was like, please, can I see you this coming weekend, so like this Friday coming or Sunday? And I was like, I will let you know. Again, I don't know if like us hanging, because there's still romantic feelings, and I was still of the disposition that like I'm not trying to have sex with you ever again. Like if we're doing friendship, we're genuinely doing friendship. So until you're able to come correctly, and I will be sticking to that boundary this time. So I told him, I was like, I will let you know. As much as I do actually want to see you, the reason I'm being hesitant is because I actually don't trust myself to honor the boundary of not having sex, especially for like hanging out in his apartment. I'm like, that's just a recipe for disaster. But I did feel good about the conversation for a few reasons. One, he gave me confirmation that obviously he wasn't seeing this woman, even though I didn't need that confirmation, and I had like absolved myself of it by that point. By the time he called, it was good to hear. Like obviously. But I felt good about the conversation because of the moments of normalcy we were having, where I'm like, you know what? Even if this never has romantic potential, um, in future, at least it was a demonstration via our conversation that we'll actually be okay. Like we'll be okay. Especially during like the moments we were just shooting the shit. I was like, this is us. Like this is our friendship. This is the state I feel best in when it comes to you. All this other stuff, I don't know what we've been doing. It's been complicating shit, and we could just be doing this right now. And it made me feel good about being in that space. I think last week I was like, I still know the beauty of our friendship and enjoyed our friendship. But again, because I was visioning us to be something different, not friends, more romantic partners, it felt disappointing to rescind into back into friendship. It felt like a loss, not a loss. It felt like we weren't. It was a huge step back. It was 12 steps back, right? Because again it was based off of my expectations and things that I wanted in future, and actually a step into friendship is not, it could never be a step back. It's a step back into something that we're both comfortable with. It's a step back into a way of relating with one another that feels safest and most comfortable. And I think before I was viewing us being friends as a disappointment, as a regression. That's the word I'm looking for. When in reality it's not anything at all. It's just a shift. Like it's just a shift. And so being able to enjoy that like loose conversation. I mean, there were definitely moments where he was still like, I love you, and I was just like, I'm not buying into this. I can't buy into this. I just got into a headspace where I feel okay. Like I'm not, I was like, I gave him the it's hurting, like he gave me last week. Um all that aside, when we were just shooting the shit, I was like, I really like this. And you know what? I needed us to have this like chiller conversation because we didn't spend all that of the 2 hours, maybe only 30 minutes we actually spent talking about like Valentine's Day and what's going on with us. And we realized we still don't have any answers. Or by we, I mean he, and I'm still not. Oh, I'm not taking that. Um, the rest of it was shooting the shit. I needed that to see that like I actually love this space. It's not a regression. It's a good space to be in. With you, and it takes the pressure off of like being so focused on trying to see him as like my future husband, as like or like as my future boyfriend or whatever. I'm like, you know what? I can just view you as my friend, and that is chill. And now, like since the conversation and since the shift in my mind Sunday, I am not as pressured around like when he's messaging me, how he's messaging me. Did he send me the meme? Did he respond to it in a way that feels meaningful? Like those are all the things that were going through my head these last 2 months. Now I'm like, I don't even care if you respond to me today, and I genuinely don't. Like, I feel back in that headspace of our friendship pre-December, where I feel in control, not in control of the situation, and that's not what I desire, or it's not the type of control I'm desiring right now. I just feel in control of myself. Like I feel in control of my own emotions. I feel in control of my mind. Because at one point I really felt like I was losing it. Okay, I felt like I was going insane. Um, and I feel in control of my energy. That is most important to me. And if I feel in control of my mind, my energy, and my spirit, I can then really get into the weeds of this healing. And I can just overall have a better disposition and mood. And so I know there's going to be slip ups. I know there's going to be moments where, I fall back into certain patterns of thinking. Hell, even there was a moment today where I had a little, thought that was very similar to the weekend, but my ability to be like, no, no, that's last week, Renee. This week, Renee doesn't care. This week, Renee is free. This week, Renee is chilling. Okay. I've just been able to like easily redirect myself and remind myself that there is beauty and power in walking away, and that it is not rejection, it's simply redirection and protection. Okay. And to do the things that I need to do to redirect and protect myself, my energy, my mind, my heart, and my spirit is absolutely justified. And it doesn't have to come out of some big bang dramatic moment where someone has done you wrong. It can simply come out of, this isn't working for me right now, and that is okay. I think reflecting back on my anxious tendencies, I've always been told that my wants and needs or that my emotions are burdensome and therefore it's not okay. And therefore it's not okay to walk away or to say no to something or to shut someone out or to honor your own feelings, because that's you being sensitive. That's you being selfish. That's you, not being a team player. That's you not being able to see someone else's perspectives and needs. And I've spent my entire life putting my emotions, my sanity, my energy, and my wants and needs on the back burner because I didn't feel like I was allowed to have them. And I was realizing in this situation with Rudy and this with what's his face, and in through therapy, that I'm like, yeah, I was struggling really communicating my wants and needs because I thought that would be burdensome to him as he's on his journey of trying to discover what he wants, and I wanted him to have the full clear mind without pressure to do that. What about my clear mind? you know? And it's okay to take some of that back and give it to yourself. That's what I really needed to realize, this weekend, that I feel like really smacked me in the face. Less about trying to make other people comfortable as they're on their healing journey, and you just focus on what you need to make yourself comfortable on the healing journey because they're only focusing on what makes them happy and comfy, and then you're there doubling, giving them more happy and comfy. They've got themselves settled, okay? They're doing exactly what they want to do. They're very conscious and aware, okay, of what they're doing and what they need in this moment for themselves. So stop it and come back over here. Come back over here. And yeah, it was eye opening. And then so now we land today. I don't know if I said or not that like this random other musician who is a saxophonist, who also knows this dude that I was ever so briefly seeing. Um Out of the blue, like DM'd me last week asking to collaborate on a project. And I was like, sure, we had a Zoom meeting and that was cool with a couple other people. And it was very clear to me that Zoom meeting that I'm like, he finds me attractive. I can tell. He wasn't being overly flirtatious, but I was the only woman on the call. Like, sometimes when on Zoom, it's like, I know you're staring directly at my box, like my little box on the screen. Like, you're not just staring at yourself, or I can feel you, like, zooming in on me. I was getting that feeling, and then it was further substantiated all of last week because anything I posted, that man was liking it. He was reacting. He was in my DMs, just coming up with a random conversation to have, and I'm like, okay, he's feeling the kid. And so we exchanged some like music recommendations over the weekend. It was a very light conversation, like nothing significant until today. um and he slid into my DMs again. Or no, he like liked something that I posted or reacted to it, so it generated a DM. And then I realized he had sent me a music recommendation that I hadn't listened to, so I listened to it, and then I came back and I was like, bro, this, recommendation is cool. And this man started then out of nowhere laying on, when I mean the flirtation thick, like he laid it on thick. He's like, you're a queen, I'm enamored by you, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, where is this coming from? And I mean, right now I'm a free agent. I don't think I'm ready to emotionally involve I'm still emotionally involved with someone. By emotionally involved with someone, it's like my emotions are just still attached to someone right now to a certain degree. They're waning, to use his language. They're waning now. Yeah, because when I shift into like, okay, let me not care, then I really don't care. Like then the love really begins to fly out the window. Um, so I can already feel that waning. But there's still also a part of me that I'm like, okay, you two know each other, and like that feels weird, but also I feel kind of weird like engaging in this knowing that the guy, that I just stepped away from, I just spoke to him yesterday and he was still very vocal about like he by the end of the conversation he was like, I still feel hopeful that like we are going to come back to a space of romanticism, and he made that very clear. He's like, whatever happens in between now and then, like we're figuring that out, but like he's like, my intention is to come back to you. I hope you know that. And I'm stating that clearly. I'm like, I'll see it when I believe it, but like, or I'll believe it when I see it. But yeah, there's still, I guess, a little part of me that's kind of like, am I allowed, should I be dating, or like, should I be chatting with people? Should I be, but I also don't think, if you don't want to be committed to me and you're not ready to, and you said those out your own mouth, what kind of idiot am I to be sitting here waiting, like, and denying myself opportunities, right? So I kind of resolved it that way with myself, and I was like, okay, just explore, and you haven't agreed to any dates, so you're not having sex with a man, but this is just a conversation that definitely has a flirtatious tone to it. There's nothing wrong with that, especially because he's been chatting with Miss Grease this entire time anyway, flirting and skirting. So what the fuck am I silencing myself for? Um, so I entertained the conversation a little bit. Then it got into like, we should hang out, and he was having a show on Friday, this coming Friday. I was like, okay, I'll come to your show. Got a little ticket because it was cheap. And then I did the thing that I don't normally do. Because I want to appear like the cool girl, and I'm like, oh, I'll wait for the guys to let me know what their situation is. This time I said, hold on, this man is laying on shit thick. I just bought tickets to his show to like support a little bit. What do you have going on? Why are you single? And like, is there somebody that thinks that they're with you? Because I'm not here to compete with no bitches. I don't date multiple people. We've already been there, done that, okay? I'm just coming out of that situation twice, back to back, and then some. Like, no, 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 no. So I said, let me check, because I don't owe this man anything. And of course, what does the man tell me? He himself is in a situationship, and he's like, we're figuring that out, and he's like, but also I'm a person. He essentially told me he already can tell that I'm a woman, that like I'm not gonna fly for that shit. And if he wants to get to know me, essentially he's like, I have a feeling that all like any other women will fall, like they'll have to go by the wayside. I'm like, will they fall because of your interest, or will they fall because that's the right thing to be doing, at least when it comes to me? And he's like, yeah, I have a feeling that like it's pretty much a mix of both. Like, I know that they're gonna have to go in order to approach you properly, but also he was, tossing in compliments. He's like, I think you're just so amazing and enamored. I think naturally, I will just lose interest in them. And I was like, good luck with that. Okay, farted again. It's the cabbage. Um, and he was like, and so essentially I politely said, I was like, listen, be kind to the girl, since especially because I was just the girl in a situationship as of last week. Okay, I was like, be kind to the girl and give yourself the true space and time to figure out what you really want from her, or if you want anything at all, and then communicate it. Okay. And until you do that, dependent on how that conversation actually transpires and what you two decide to do with your situation, I'm gonna put a hefty pause on this conversation of, oh, I'm enamored and I think you're hot and sexy, because those were the things that he was saying, and I was kind of like, oh, really, up until he revealed this situationship, situation. And he ate it very well. He's like, you know what, fair, I hear you. And he's like, but wait, can we still hang out? And are you still coming to my show? I'm like, yeah, I'll come to your show. Like, I'm just an audience member. That's a chill situation. And I'm like, and I'm down to hang out. You just like, say when, but I'm very clear with you that like these ain't dates, and I'm not approaching them with as such, or like I'm not even approaching it as anything flirtatious. Like, it's giving my nigga, like, hey bro, that's what it'll be giving. Um, yeah, because I, number one, my cardinal rule that I somehow keep getting disrespected is me not compete for no dick. Me not compete for no man. Me not compete for no man. And so already, if you're asking me to enter into an arena where somebody else exists and they have, history with you, no, 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 and vice versa. You're not gonna be doing things with me and introducing new people into the mix. No, no, no. Me not compete for no man. Okay, so what, you can feel wanted by everyone while you as a man continue to get more confused because you have too much choice. When there's both of us here now, you'll actually never make a decision. There's so many men who are like, oh, inevitably one will rise to the top. No, they just eat their cake, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat the cake, eat the cookies, eat all the stuff, and never make a decision and continue to be more confused. So I was like, yeah, and also I don't know you all. Like, I literally met you last week. Nigga. I literally met you virtually on a computer last week. I don't owe you anything. And again, I think a previous me would have heard that. I wouldn't have even asked. Let's start there. But even if I did ask, I would have been like, okay, it's just a situationship. Like, let's see what that's giving. And no, what I have learned is I don't want a man who actively engages in situationships when they're meeting me. Let's start there. But number two, I also don't want a man who thinks situationships are okay. I want a man who dates with intention. I don't want a man who has a pattern of stringing women along and in needless confusion while they're figuring it out, and you're chatting and sliding into other people's DMs. I was like, that is that from the Rudy, from the, the situation I was just in, from the guy before him, from all the men before that man, are the red flags that I was deciding to ignore, because that shows you the character of this person and inevitably how they might treat you. Mind you, let's not generalize. He could, come out of the situationship, find me and be like, oh, this is the love of my life, and like, treat me properly. There's very much so a chance of that as well. But right now, all the data I have on you and all the evidence is pointing that you behave in this particular way, that you have a girl that you two obviously have feelings for one another. You're not committed. You're in a bit of a messy situation. He called it a situationship, not me. So you're aware of the complication of that, and you're still sliding in other people's DMs instead of actually taking the time to do the work to figure out what the hell you need to be doing over here. That's not the type of man I'm interested in terms of personality and character. And so I'm so proud of myself because this really shows me the healing that I'm doing and the ability to use my voice. The healing I'm realizing is allowing me to communicate the things that I often silence because I feel too worried and anxious and like, that I'm going to get rejected or whatever, to do it. And I'm so glad I was like, yeah, until you sort that situation out, please don't come bark up my tree in this way. You can bark up my tree professionally, and you can bark up my tree for like cool bro vibes. Otherwise, save it. Quite literally save it. Um, and that's where we are now. And so I'm feeling kind of good. I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, I'm gonna go to the show, finally meet this man, the saxophonist, in person. I have zero intentions, as I mentioned, of being super flirty. And literally, I'm just using it as a night out, if I'm being honest. I'm like, I love live music. He seems to be a fantastic saxophonist. This is also an iteration of the show that he is asking me to co-host in a couple of months. That's why he initially DM'd me. So I'm like, I do want to see the format anyway. I am still very undecided as to whether or not I'll be seeing the guy that, I just let go, my own situationship that I just released myself from on Friday or Sunday. We'll see how I feel. And if I do, decide to see him, there will be no sleepovers. There'll definitely be no sex. It'll be a quick like, how's it going? You see me? Check in, and I'll be taking my booty the fuck home. And that will also message to him that like I'm dead ass. There's a part of me that feels that like he thinks once we just see each other in person, like, the love and the passion, the la 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 will like kind of take over, and that will go right back into what we were doing last week, which he was perfectly fine with. He was perfectly fine with. And I'm here to give him an unfortunate disruption that simply is not going to happen. I'm here to be your friend. Let's be friends. Yeah. And if and you need to be okay with that, because that's the decision ultimately um that you're making that's led to this. So yeah, and I kind of feel good about that too. I'm not gonna lie, the little toxic part of me makes me feel powerful as a woman. um, but outside of all of that, that is what I said I would be doing, and so I'm gonna honor that, because what do I look like backsliding? I'm going over to your apartment, and then oops, we have sex. Once again, you're there being like, I mean, I don't think he's like this, but in his mind, yeah, as a man, you're gonna code it as great. These are things that she will tolerate. These are things that she will put up with, and I still get what I want, and I still get, the things out of her. No, too many a man have viewed me that way, because that's I keep backsliding and going against my own word. This time, I'm going with my word, and you, sir, I'm teaching you how to treat me. If I'm able to treat myself in the way that I say I will treat myself by respecting my own words and boundaries, that forces you to do one of two things. Either meet those boundaries too, or fall the fuck off. And so that's where we're at. Neck rolls and all. Okay, honey, neck rolls and all. La la la. Yeah. All right, that's all I got for y'all. We'll see what happens.